Hello, it is Guido, Tactics Talk, and another tank review. We have another tank. This time, though, it's not a tank, it's a bulldozer. We have a bulldozer, folks, in World of Tanks. Actually, it's a tank with a blade on the front. Look at that. The Raumpanzer. Raumpanzer? German Tier 8 medium tank based on an American tank with a bulldozer blade on it. Well, apparently this was one of the first engineering vehicles or ideas of an engineering vehicle. It says one of the first. Surely there were engineering vehicles in World War II. I don't know if I buy that right up by Wargaming, but I guess I sort of understand what they're saying. And it does note, if you look over here at the vehicle details, that, where does it say it? But with demounted guns. A total of 53 vehicles. So who knows how long the Raumpanzer, the actual one, carried around its gun. I don't know, but we get a gun. Thank goodness we don't have to ram people. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Well, unfortunately, your excitement about ramming people with the big bulldozer blade is going to have to be tamped down a little bit because it doesn't exactly work that way. The blade is there, but it's not there. You will note when you drive around in this thing that it clips through terrain and it does not stop you from going anywhere. That would be a bit of a bummer based on some of the terrain because you would get hung up on rocks and all kinds of other little dips and whatnot. So watch it when you drive around. You'll see it clip through the ground. It's not perfect, but there you go. We're going to do the standard review, the standard Guido review. We'll have an overview. We'll look at the tech tree. Considerations: it is a premium tank, Tier 8 German. Now, I did mention it's an American hull. I don't know if it's going to get the back and forth treatment. That would be cool if it did. I don't notice that it has it right now in any event. We'll do a comparison amongst its peers. We'll look at my stats. We'll look at my setup, and then I will go through about 3 games with this tank. This tank, what would we say about this tank? It's balanced. That's what I'm going to say about this tank. We'll talk about some of its strengths and some of its weaknesses and go over my gameplay. I did okay in it. So overview wise, as you can see, it is a M48A2, as it says. Raumpanzer, which you can then rage around and ram people with the bulldozer blade. See, that's in my head now, and I really wish that's what this tank did. But A, it's not even close to fast enough, and B, the blade it doesn't work that way. It is apparently spaced armor. I cannot find how much. I did read that it seems to work on HE. I don't know if it's actually working against heat. That being said, the armor is actually pretty good because this is basically a Tier 10 vehicle down tiered to Tier 8. So we have an M48 at Tier 10. We have an M60 at Tier 10 with basically the same hull, kind of the same turret. It does have the big Tuma. It has a Tuma on the top. But it's got a very strong turret, decent hull armor, especially for a Tier 8 medium. It's quite good. Add into this mystery armor that I don't know exactly what it does, to be quite honest. And I had a pretty good time bouncing shots, surprising people who didn't really know what to do with the Raumpanzer as it came at them. Relatively big, but not too big. I mean, obviously the Russian guys are really tiny, but the Lorraine's about as tall, the TL1 LPC. Now, I will be comparing and contrasting it a bit with the TL-1 LPC because this is the last medium tank that came out, and it's quite good. Sorry, this one's not quite as good. Not quite as good as the TL-1 LPC, but we'll talk about that as we go. So, a decently sized American, if you've driven any of the American medium tanks at Tier 8, 9, or 10, you'll have a good idea of some of its capabilities, good gun depression, okay mobility, okay armor, decent turret armor, that kind of thing. All right, let's take a look at the tech tree and the things you might want to consider with the Raumpanzer. So we'll blast through this pretty easy because there's not a whole lot to tell. The good news is the Leopard, Leopard PTA, and Indian Panzer all have the commander, driver, gunner, what is it? Oh, see, now I can't remember. Commander, driver, gunner, what am I missing? Loader. Commander, gunner, driver, loader. So the same thing as the Raumpanzer has. The E50, the E50, the Panther II, the Panther, and I believe even down to the 3002 and probably beyond, adds a radio operator. So a lot of the World War II tanks up to World War II and the end of it had a radio operator involved, and the everything past World War II tended tend to have their radio operator in one of the other crew positions there. So you're looking at easy fit for the Indian Panzer Leopard PTA and the Leopard, but you're going to have your radio operator cooling his heels while you're playing the Raumpanzer, but you can still train those crews. It's just one guy, no child left behind, unfortunately. One radio operator left behind at all times. All right, let's take a look at the 3D model, except we won't because there isn't one. Well, unfortunately, tanks.gg does not have this model uploaded. In fact, it doesn't even have the blade on front of it, and there's no values. So the armor values are as follows. 152 on the hull. That's pretty good on the upper plate. 76 on the side. I'm not really sure what the bottom is, although it does have the bulldozer blade in front of it, and I don't know what the bulldozer blade's thickness is. And the turret armor is 254, so that's pretty darn good. 254 is not bad at all. 76 on the side, though, is going to get you, it's going to get you a pinned, and you're going to have a little bit of a hard time with side scraping with 76 on the side right there. And 50 on, I'm sorry, that's the turret 76, also 76 on the whole armor right there. But 254 on the front of the turret, this is considerably less. The tumor is pinnable like most of the American Tumas up there. It's basically the same cupola, more or less, as the Rampage, which who knows when it's going to be sold. So there you go, giant tumor. While it's got great gun depression, the tumor is going to come over the hill at first right there. Armor layout is pretty standard for Americans. Got the big billboard side right there, tracks all over the place, and it's hard to see the front, but it's basically the M48 front with a little bit of angle on the top and some on the bottom, and kind of that rounded idea down below. So if you do a little wiggle jiggle like a disc, you can sometimes spoil their aim and get them to aim a little bit on the bad angle, in which case, you know, aim over here and get a bad bounce angle, or maybe eat it into the tracks kind of idea. So there you go on the whole 3D model. There's not much to tell. Giant tumor, strong turret, okay-ish hull, but really pretty darn good hull, and we'll get into the comparison here in just a minute, for a Tier 8 medium tank, right? But remember, you're going to run into Tier 9s and 10s a lot as well. Let's take a look at the comparison. All right, I have selected all premium tanks here. Some of the most recent ones, some of the good ones that people like, the STA2, which is recently buffed and is pretty good. A couple other American type hull tanks right there to give an idea. Yada yada, and then another decent German premium medium at Tier 8, the Panzer 58 Mutz. So what is there to say about the Raumpanzer? Well, it's a 240 average DPM shot, so it's down there near the bottom. That's pretty standard for medium tanks at Tier 8, unless you're considering the new TL1 LPC pumping out 280, or the Lance & C, which really hits hard at 320. Interesting, if you remember, the Mutz was upgraded to 250 recently as well. Kind of interesting there. Penetration is okay. It's not as bad as, say, a KR or the Pilot, which is pretty atrocious at 192, but 205 is not great. The problem is that the gold round is also not great. It only goes up to about 250. We'll take a look at that in a minute. Whereas, by comparison, the TL1 LPC has 3 more base and then gets that incredible 280 pin heat round. So right off the bat, you're going to be kind of like, okay. I see what you're doing there with the armor, but yeah, the gun is already a little bit behind the power curve for the TL1 LPC. The problem with the Raumpanzer is it doesn't have a band attached to it. Shots fired. All right, so rate of fire, 8.23 is okay. Reload time at 7.29, right in there with the rest of these guys. Gun traverse is kind of low. The turret is a bit sluggish. At 31, that's pretty abysmal for a medium tank. So you will find yourself sometimes having a little bit of trouble getting right to left with the turret traverse and getting on guys who are moving rapidly right to left or left to right. Gun depression is comfortable at -9. What happened to -10 for the American tanks? Everything for America was -10, and all of a sudden, now these American designed tanks have lost a degree of depression and a degree of elevation. I'm not sure. So we look at that and we go 240 alpha. We say, okay, fine. 240 alpha, rate of reload time at 7.29. Okay, fine. What does that get us? Well, it gets us an aiming time of 1.82. Ooh, fantastic. That's the best in class, at least as far as these go. There may be one other, but there's a lot of Tier 8 premiums, so I can't even put all of them on there. But 1.85 is nice for aiming time, right? Except for, no. .4 is abysmal. This is kind of a derpy gun. So really, and it's one of those trade-offs with the balancing aspects. When you take a tier 10 hull and you down tier it to tier 8 and you leave the armor intact, then you've got to find other ways to kind of balance it. If you gave it a really great DPM or a great dispersion, then you might find a slightly overpowered tank because you down tiered a hull with all that armor and made it a medium with decent mobility. Well, how you fix that is you make the dispersion crap, and there you go. So even though you aim in fast, you only aim into .4. So what does that mean? Do as much as you can to take care of the soft stats, take care of the dispersion anyway for the gun. Crew, directives, food, whatever you got to do to get that dispersion down so you can actually act like a medium tank at medium range. All right, 1976 is okay on the average damage per minute. You look at it, and it's pretty close to the LPC. It's right there with the Panzer 58 Mutts and the rest of them. It's right in there. No worries at all. Unfortunately, derpy gun, 240 Alpha. Guess who's really a better gun platform? Yeah, the TL1 LPC. Even the Mutts, really, at the end of the day, with the dispersion on that guy of 0.33 and a comparable average damage per minute with a 250 Alpha, even a Mutts is a better gun platform, even if the turret's not quite as good. But really, you got to hesitate when you're talking about a tier 8 medium to get all crazy about the turret, because there's so many big tanks at 9 and 10 who can just punch straight through it. Now, that being said, it is 254, and that is pretty impressive. That's Centurion impressive. Except for what? It's a Tuma. Except for the tumor, right? The Centurion doesn't have a Tuma. It's got one, but it's much smaller and harder to hit up there. So really, you go, oh yeah, this is great. Oh, tumor. Yeah, I forgot about that. Oh yeah, and derpy gun, so when I pop over and try to take that snap, oh boy. You know, it's great looking numbers, but when you consider how the game is played, maybe not so much. Now, this is why I say it's balanced, okay? I'm calling it balanced. Hit points are high. At the high end, 1450, pretty nice, but really it's 50 less than the rest of them. Why does the STA2 have 1420? There's not many tanks that aren't at round numbers like at 5s or 0s, are there? 1420, there he is. Now we get to the next balancing act that we had, and we find out that this poor feller only does 40 knots, 40 kilometers an hour. 40 kilometers an hour. I mean, this is super Pershing speed. You know what I'm saying? Super Pershing speed. And it's kind of the idea of the super Pershing, right? The gimmicky armor blade on the front, the strong hull armor and turret armor because it's coming down tiers from tier 10. And we'll just cut it off at the knees with its speed. We'll call it a medium tank, but it's really kind of a fast, heavy tank with a crap gun. I know I'm coming down a little hard on it. It is balanced, folks, all right? But really, the problem with it is you immediately compare it to the last thing that showed up. And the last thing that showed up was the TL1 LPC, which is a pretty darn good medium tank. And when you look at this and go, yeah, I don't know. 36.51 on the Traverse. Come down here in another head scratcher. Why on earth is this thing so terrible in camo? Now, yeah, some of these things are smaller, but height-wise, which usually seems to be kind of the thing that they go with, it's not really that much higher. It's not really that much higher than the rest of these tanks, but the drop-off on camo is huge. I mean, absolutely huge. But anyway, whatever the reason, and it is a big-ish medium tank, we're all the way down there at a whole 7.92 on camo. It's just awful. Just awful. View range at 380. Wow. Well, there's another punch in the face right there. An American/German tank with terrible view range. That's actually kind of interesting, to be quite honest. Not sure why it would have 380, especially since it's taller than most of them and has a giant commander's hat. There should be enough room in there for several commanders to be looking in every direction on that tumor. But we're only down there to 380. So What's the overall impression for me taking a look at all these? Well, derpy gun, relatively slow, quite a bit of armor. I guess it's trying to be kind of a super Pershing idea Ridge fighter, but then you add the tumor on top, and really it's all of its strengths are immediately countered by a lot of its weaknesses, and it comes out to be a pretty balanced tank. And I realize that's not what people want to hear when they want to open their wallet and start thinking about it. They want the next flavor of the month. But I'm telling you, it's pretty balanced. I think it's more of a collector's item that's got the cool bulldozer on the front. You know, hey, I got the Raumpanzer kind of idea. You know, Wargaming, I think you really missed the boat. You should have added like ram damage to that bulldozer or something, and maybe make it a hitbox so it does hang up on stuff. But if you can figure out how to ram someone, it can do a lot of extra damage. Anyway, that'll never happen. There you go. So there's a comparison. Let's look at my stats. I played 20 games in it. All right, here's my stats in it. I mean, I did okay. We're looking at the Raumpanzer here. 20 battles, 55%. That's one win more than losses, so don't get too crazy there. I think it's kind of a 55% win rate solo for me, tank. Close to 1,000 on the experience, but not quite over. I managed to ace it multiple times, but it had placeholder numbers. This was when just the CCs are running around, so that's not that impressive. Damage ratio at 1.07 is low. You will note that my DPG is only 1347, and that is really bad. My Schwartz is at 16, my Indian's at 18, my Panther 2 is at 14, my 8.8 is at 1699, so you get the idea. I'm underperforming DPG on this thing. The assist is roughly the same, so that damage ratio is atrocious. I would expect that to come up somewhat, but I don't know if really this is much more than a 14 or 1500 DPG tank. You know, the DPM is not that great, and all those things I talked about, the pluses and minus, plus its speed, because the meta now is being able to get around the map. This thing is a little bit limited on that, so it's not a slow heavy with survivability necessarily. It's sort of a medium heavy thing with not a lot of mobility to get around, so really it is left in the dust a little bit, both figuratively and literally in the meta right now, so I don't know how much that would really come up. Destruction ratio is decent at 1.71. This was interesting to me. 0.48. That's pretty high for a medium. That is situational armor, i.e. the turret used correctly can give you some bounces, and for the moment anyway, the big blade can surprise people, and that frontal armor can surprise people because they don't kind of realize that that little tier 8 medium has that much armor, even though if you consider tier 9 and 10, it's not really that much armor. What else we got? Nothing else really. I had a 2,558 damage game, which is not, I'm sorry, it's experience. Sorry, 3,441 damage game, which is reasonable but not amazing. All right, let's look at my setup. All right, for my setup, what did I do? Well, we had all the top modules. It is a premium, so you don't have to worry about that at all. I'm using a vert stab. I'm using a rammer and optics. I don't always use optics. I'm leaning that way more and more on mediums, but with a relatively low 380 view range, you probably want to throw those on this particular tank so you can be a little bit more competitive. I had a good crew in there. I used my Leopard PTA crew. Remember, it's a premium, so you can put any really good crew in there that you have for the Germans. I only carried 8 APCR, 8 HE, and 48 AP. Realize that's a lot of rounds, so you can pretty much do what you want to taste. I probably have a few more HE than I really need in there, because it is only a 90 millimeter or 9 centimeter cannon. 205 for the pen and 255 for the gold, which is not great. Not great at all right there. Large kits, fire extinguisher. I did run personal directives for most of those games, and that is basically my setup. So let's take a look at 3 games. I'll give you my very first game in it, and then a couple games where I did decently, and we'll take a look at how the Raumpanzer fights. All right, first example, we have loaded into Studzianki. I don't know, I didn't say it right. But we're in on that map. Is it Poland? I think it's Poland. So we're here we are in Poland, and I am top tier in a 2-tier battle, which is pretty good deal. Pretty good deal, and this was the first battle that I fought in the tank. So I'll head over here to the south, see what I can do with the old Raumpanzer. I've got a 53 TP, an IS-3, and a T-44, as well as a VTU and a Super Pershing that I have to deal with, tier 8-wise. So we'll come over here. I can see that the T-44-100 and the Hotchkiss have dove down into that little pit. Actually, the Hotchkiss is running around on our side, but I know that the T-44-100 is down there. So I saw this armor on this thing, and I went, all right, well, let's see what the armor can do. I'm just going to kind of no respect these guys. I'll come straight through this thing. I'm hoping the 43 doesn't dive in my way. A little bit worried about that guy right there, so we'll see if I can shrug a shot off from him. We'll shoot him on the way. I bounce. He bounces, but I take a hit in the side from the 44-100, and then foolishly turn away from him, which was dopey. Hoping, oop, I hoped I wouldn't get hit, but I did. So I turned the wrong way. That was dumb. 44 is spamming some gold at me there. Trying to get a shot in on. There we go. So I sneak one in. And then I get hit by the EBR, which is what I was worried about because I knew he was in front of me. So I'll try to get out of the way of the 44, and now we got to deal with this. Got to deal with this bridge issue and the camera garbage with it. I'm trying to get past the LPC. He's trying to live. I'm trying to get past him. Miss. There's that dispersion kind of being crummy. And we're jumping all over the 44. Looks like he's dead, so he's been knocked out. We'll come on up this way. Looking for maybe a shot on the Su-122-44. The P-43 is taking on the guard. Is that it? What is that? No, Comet. Taking on the Comet there. He won't be long for the world. And we've basically won over here, but it looks like they've got a pretty good force up in the north. So we'll move along this way. We've got 1,300 spotting or assist damage. We'll move up here and see if we can't take a quick peek and see if we can find them. They do have quite a few TDs, so I didn't really want to just go driving, blitzing back into the backfield there. And I'm looking for this. I'd love to get a shot on one of these guys without them seeing me. I was a little bit worried about getting spotted there, so I kept on trucking. Of course, the problem with going right here is that there are guys over on that side that may or may not have shots on you. If you get spotted, they will certainly come to the edge of the factory there and start plinking away at you. CMCD dies. Now I've got a little better view on what's going on over there. They're behind a couple of the fences, so I actually cover up just a little bit here until I figure out what's going on. Let me see if I can now get a shot. There we go. Put a shot into the side of the Oni. Plenty of pen with a standard round for the side of the Oni. He drives off into there. Hard to tell. Some of those are solid walls. Some of them can be shot down. There's a lot of them in there. So I'm just trying to find one that is... There we go. VTU is very soft, so I'll take a shot on him. He backs up behind what looks like to be a building there. I tried a shot anyway, but I think that's a building right in that area right there. We've got a good advantage going. I'm just trying to pick guys apart from the side. Little shot in there. That's obviously something solid. T-34 survives that. Down he goes. Or T-29, sorry. Down he goes. I make a bit of a mistake coming on in here a little while later. Actually, I think I get a shot or two in here. Looking for a shot on him. There we go. We get a crit. Track him, shoot him in the side. Down he goes. A little bit of assist damage along the way. And I'd love to move up. The problem is you've got some TDs on the left. The T-20's right here, and you've got all those heavy tanks over there. And I just know once I come around here and get spotted by the T-20 or potentially the IS-3 right there. I'm kind of surprised they didn't see me on that shot, to be honest. Then they'll have shots on me. And I see I've got a little cover with the T-100-01, VK-100-01, giving those guys trouble. And I'm going to actually bounce, I think, off. No, I do get a shot into this. Now that I'm spotted, I'm expecting one of these guys to turn around at any moment. I'm now spamming a little bit of gold. Got a bit of a critical situation. I take that hit right there. The IS-3 shoots a gold round into me. Now I'm bumming because that IS-3 is in good shape, so I'm hoping to get one more shot of damage. I get that, and then I'm thinking, uh-oh, nope, done. So 1,895, 2,224 damage. We end up winning that one pretty easily. Oh, a couple cases of the turret and the whole armor working out for me there. I blocked 420. I guess I only blocked the one T-53. Or is it a T-53? What is that daggum thing? 53 TP. So it looks like that's the only shot I actually blocked, to be honest there. Everything else went through me. A lot of gold being shot right at me. And we end up winning that. So there you go. Enough mobility to kind of get around the battle. The armor worked once for me. I was out in front taking a lot of hits right there. So you can see the IS-3 had no trouble. I might have been over-angled. Who knows where he hit me, to be quite honest. Yeah, maybe a little over-angled, but he could have gone just straight through. Unfortunately, now that the destruction model's there, it's hard to tell where I was hit. Unless that's actually right. I don't know if that... I don't think that's right. Usually the destruction model doesn't show the hit points. All right, let's move on to the second example. All right, for the second example, you can see that I'm here on Sand River top tier. So we'll see how this thing performs top tier. So I wanted to show you coming out of the cap circle. I'll tell you one thing about not having team damage anymore. It's a good thing because you get stuff like this 34-100 just randomly shooting. He just shoots into the ground. He's just driving along, and I'm trying to cruise along. Now watch the blade get clipped as well. Watch him shoot me. Just random shoots me right in the back of the head. Thank goodness there's no team damage. At least in the case of not dealing with bozos randomly firing. I don't know if I did it on this one. On another one, I'll actually go up to this rock right here and see what happens with the dozer blade. And that's where I figured out that it's actually not solid, so you can't get it hung up on things. We'll speed this up because I'm heading up here to the top area. Now I'm going to show you a couple 3,000 damage games. The one that I showed you at first was an almost 2,000 damage game. You will note that I only have 1,400 plus DPG. The point of me telling you that is I had some pretty good games, and the rest of them were pretty atrocious. Where this thing will struggle, and I will show you a decent game after this, bottom tier, but only one tier down. When tier 10 battles, this thing struggles mightily. It really, really does struggle mightily with that kind of poor gold penetration. Bad mobility for medium, so you can't really leverage the at least I can get around the battlefield thing if I'm in a tier 10 battle. So let's take a look at what we do here. We come on up, we got good depression, we got a good turret. Let's see how we can work that against these T-44s. Remember though that I've got the Tuma. Okay. So that just went right in the gun. Looks like I just took it in the gun, got it damaged, but survived it. Got multiple tanks here. T-43 and IS-2. T-44. I'm trying to get this IS-2. See, -9 is nice. I mean, I almost have enough to do what I want to do here, but if I go just a little further up, I can't quite get into his hole right there, so I'm sort of expecting him to maybe come around. Nobody comes across the hill, which is good. Looks like they've all tucked up, and that was their mistake. Had they had somebody back there, and then there's my 34-100 buddy. So I'm just sort of trying to bait this IS-2. I know he's got relatively bad pin, so I'm feeling like if I can get a decent shot off of there, I bounce there. If I can get a decent angle, I can probably have a good chance of bouncing him, especially if he's running just regular AP. And then I don't realize I have pressed 3 for some reason. That was when I fixed my gun. I must have hit 3 twice. Unknown how long I was sitting there with HE loaded like a buffoon. So we'll take a shot there. He actually misses, thank goodness for the derpy IS-2 gun. So we're abusing him pretty decently, but not because I've done anything especially good. I've just been a bit lucky on his bounces. He's just trying to get away and ends up dying. So we get through that entire engagement without losing anything. I see that these guys are all on the other side. We have the 34-100 and the whoever just died, the low. And then I've got all kinds of customers down here. Now this is a pretty good example of lower tier tanks having a really hard time with this thing's armor. And you will find that on the lower tiers, that it does a pretty good job of bouncing tier 7 guns. If they're not aiming very well, and then we got this guy coming out, bad shot on my part, I put it into the side. I actually bounced the Centurion. So I'm just trying to back up and keep some distance from him. I really don't want to deal with turret to turret right there. So I back up and we get that guy down. I've still at this point only taken 1 damaging shot. I end up ammo racking the T-43 for 739. Interesting, this tank actually managed to ammo rack quite a few tanks, which I think was just happenstance, but it was kind of curious. Hoping to get rid of him. There you go. And I got through that whole fight there, bounced 770, and managed to only take 1 damaging shot. So sometimes the armor is actually working for you. And in the case of that battle, I was able to stay hull down pretty well for most of it, take a bunch of shots into my hole, avoid them getting to the side of me, but I had enough mobility to kind of chase them around the mountain. But that was a fairly constrained and contained fight right there. So we'll head down this way, and it's looking pretty good for the team. It's not a win, a complete win. We can easily walk into a bunch of TDs and have them shave us down a bit. So let's see. And just, I want you to appreciate the slowness right here. We're doing 35. Now we're going uphill a little bit. It's just, it does take a while to get where you want to be, and it does not feel a lot of times like it's a medium. A lot of times it feels more like a heavy Or if you wish, if you want to call it a relatively fast heavy, you can do that. I thought I'd get spotted there. I know there's at least one TD, maybe two. I've got the guy behind me, the EBR. Not too worried about him. If he comes down, we'll deal with him, but he can sit up there all he wants. The only TD I can see is this guy. And boom, there's the S1. So he puts a shot into us, but it's a crit only. And he gets absolutely schwammered. And that leaves the two that are left right there. There's a Su-1 2244. I think I actually hit him there. Somebody else fires in and kills him. I believe that went in for damage. So we're going to come on up here. We see the EBR raging around. Get a shot out of him. Brings us up to 2455. The Su-101 is moving backwards. I want to finish off this EBR and then see if I can't. Oh, there he goes. Don't get any shots off him. So I'm going to wait on this ridge and see if I can catch him backing up a little bit, which is what we do. Not a very good shot. Sort of shot directly at him instead of thinking about his reversing. And then he just comes up and gives me a shot. But I don't get damage. 2,455. I thought this was a 3,000. Maybe it's not quite a 3,000 damage game, but we get 3 kills out of that thing. Over 2,400 damage. And I think a pretty good example of what you can expect as a top tier against lower tier mediums especially, and potentially guys who aren't really paying attention to your tank. The Centurion probably would have had a good time playing peekaboo with me. All he had to do was shoot at that thing. So if he'd have just went hull down, I would have had a hard time with his turret, and he'd have had a field day with the big tumor right there. You can see the shots. Looks like 2 guys went in there. Another shot went down there. I don't think any of those are on the model. We'll have to take a look when we load in. I think those are all actual shots from the game this time. So there you go. Let's look at the last example as bottom tier, but only in a 2-tier battle. This time we're on defense on Siegfried line. I'm going to come up to the middle here. There is one Artie, but I'm going to try to use a little bit of the hold down action right here. Maybe to catch some guys out as they're moving around. Try to get a shot into him, but he gets away and I miss. There's that sort of derpy 0.4, that derpy 0.4 accuracy. Not amazing. Now, I have a decent crew in here, and I don't know if I was running a directive that helped aiming, but I'm not running around with a 0.4, but obviously you're starting at 0.4 and trying to make it better. So sometimes those longer range sort of snappy shots aren't going to be that great. Now I'm going to come over here and try to figure out how to deal with the Super Pershing. Got a Super Pershing and a Tiger 2. So the standard B and I are dealing with them. And I'm worried about the 4202 because he's in a good spot to shoot us in the side if he sees us. For the moment, I don't believe I'm lit, so we're just going to hang out here a little bit. I'm thinking maybe I can get a shot on the Super as he comes across. Let's see if we can use that -9 gun depression. I just can't quite get there, and I'll back out because I can see the 4202 coming up. They know I'm there now, so I'm going to have to try to isolate the threats a little bit, and we'll move here to the north. That way I can sort of watch the 4202 and then maybe get shots on these 2 guys. I do have to be careful if the Artie starts paying attention to me on this one and starts lobbing shots my way. I may have to go somewhere else, especially if I continue back and forth, back and forth. I'm really hoping that the 4202 will back up, but he's showing no intention of doing so. He gets hit though, so he's now getting whittled down. If we can get rid of him, then I can start dealing with these 2. It looks like somebody took some good chunks out of the Super Pershing. There's another shot on the 4202. I'm going to take a look in here and see if I have shots on this guy, but he's further in the city. I'm not going to get any shots on him. Okay, 4202 is down. That means that I have a bit more of a permissive situation over here. Let's see if I can take a look at these guys, if there's any shots on them. Not quite, and then these 2 are now looking at me. It looks like the Super was looking to come up while I had my turret pointed the other way, which was smart on his part. And this -9 is almost enough, but not quite. There's a bounce from the Tiger 2, so I'm able to use the armor right there a little bit. The turret's good right here. It's just trying to get some kind of angle where I can get a shot and not automatically get pinned in a return shot. So haven't done much yet. 135 assist. Kind of clogged it up. I've got 2 of them pinned, but I do need to start working on them and get rid of them. That surprised me. It took me a while to see him. So there he is. Oh, jeez. So I bounce him. We got the two guys in the corner there. So I will come up and look for a shot, and I'm just trying to be careful. Now I see the bat check come up and thinking, all right, between the two of us, that's what we needed to break this open. A little bit of an aim, we take him down, and there's the artillery. So the artillery finally decides to shoot me. I'm surprised it took that long. The bat check, I'm not really sure why he hasn't just come in there and started shooting this guy, but we'll take that shot into the turret. He's not paying attention. Relatively decent reload. He's looking right at the bat chat, so there's 2 free shots. And the bat chat bails out, so now I've got to pull back because he's going to start shooting at me. He's not interested in this anymore. He starts headed back towards his friends, or then he decides to go armor up to me. I see the bat chat moving around the other side of him. And then he gets hung up on the side there. And he's just in a bit of a trouble. You can tell he doesn't really have much of a good idea what to do right there. Take a shot at him there. Now we're just looking to finish him off. If I can just get a piece of his armor. Not a really great shot. That was never going to really pen, but it did track him. So I get a little bit of assist on that. Now that we've cleared out that north spot, we can head down to the south and move into the city. I'll speed this up a little bit to get in there. Watching this as they go. There's a 704 right there. I can see him right out in the road. Really nice shot on his side. We'll put that into him. And now we'll move in. And again, you kind of notice the slowness. What are we cooking along at? 35. It's not really much of an uphill. And then we go uphill and we're down to 31. And for a medium, it just feels like it's taking forever to get into the city right here. So we'll come over here. Now, unfortunately, I have shot a bunch of my gold, which is not exactly what I wanted to do right there. Probably didn't need all that gold on those guys. What I was thinking was punching through the turret face of the Tiger II. But I ended up using all of it. So now we've got some decently armored guys that I've got to try to get shots into. And there's a bounce off of a Malshin, so that's not bad. Not bad at all. 34-3 is up there. There he dies, so somehow he got in behind us. But we end up taking care of him with the GW Tiger P. The Emil takes some shots. And I'm thinking, oh, can I sneak one past this guy? No, right into the ground. There's the derpiness of the .40. And he sneaks away right there. The Malshin is still there. And for a while there, it looked like kind of a runaway win. But now we're dealing with these guys pretty even at 8-7. And a good portion of their power altogether. Now, I don't want to really go up. I'd love to go up to that corner up there. But I'm worried about what's back here. And then all of a sudden we see the GW Tiger rolling around. So I'm just going to back up and help make sure this dude goes away. There we go. Down he goes, so he's no longer a problem. That frees up the Leopard PTA and the Bat Chat to get back into the fight. And now I'm going to come here and see if I can't find this Malshin backing up again. No, he's right there. Again, I don't want to go into that open area because the 5041, if he drops a clip into me, it's pretty much game over for me. So I've got to be a little bit cagier here about this. Really hoping that he would back up. Notice a couple of our guys in the city are really one-shots, and all of a sudden then I see the standard B doing this over here. Bad shot, just an awful, terrible gunnery on my part. Plus I got spotted, so I need to back up and back up fast so the Malshin doesn't come back around that corner and hit me. And that's what I was hoping for, that he might do something like that, but he's not quite. There we go. Bounce, unfortunately. He's looking at Leopard PTA. And I'm trying to snipe him when I... Well, okay, the standard died. I was going to say, I tried to snipe him here, but I probably should have gone with the standard, but that's right, the Leopard PTA got him. Then we see this dude back here. We sneak one into the T55A. That's just RNG doing its job right there, folks. So the 5041 actually comes down below me here, which kind of surprised me. And he's busy, so I'll try to track him, which I do. I was just going to run away, but then I noticed he doesn't fix it, so I'm just going to kind of sit here, and that's fine. We get him hit again. He puts one shot into me, tracks me, and then I'm just going to back up here and then come at him because I know, even if I eat a shot, I'll be able to take him down with the next one. But I'm up to bouncing 1,590 with the armor. 2,263 damage. We got the Malshin and the Leopard PTA left. So I probably should have just gone in there, but based on the guys that have been dying, I figure the Leopard PTA is out here somewhere. So I don't really want to get gunned down by that guy. Looks like somebody's yelling at me. I didn't even notice that. There's a Leopard PTA. He's out in the field coming at us. So I'll just come in here, get a little zoom in going, take a shot, and I don't know where it went. Complete miss. Decent reload, so we'll take another one at him, get that one into him. There we go. The Malshin takes down the Bat Chat. The Leopard PTA gets by me. So I've got to kind of leave that dude, and we'll come over here and see if we can't double team or triple team this Malshin. Now I know the Leopard PTA is going to come around behind me, so I'll put one into his turret. I look behind me. I can see him on the mini-map. For the moment, he's not there. Got one into him. I actually bounce another one out off of him, so we're up to bouncing 2,000. Sneak another into his hole right there. I'm thinking, all right, are we going to reload in time? Oh, no, the Leopard PTA is behind me. And not only is the Leopard PTA behind me, he's jammed my turret, and he gets 2 shots into me. So that hurt. Instead of, oh, there he goes. He fired. And he's still there for some reason. I don't know why. Oh, he's tracked. There you go. So we double tap that dude. Down he goes. I get the assist along the way. 3,441, 1,610 assist. Bottom tier, just being kind of that careful medium guy, picking away at him from the edges instead of just blazing in. And the bonus with this tank is the armor can be in some cases situationally good. I get 2,080 bounce, which is like carrying another tank and a third with me, or tank and a half with me as far as hit points go. All right, let's wrap this thing up. All right, there you have it. What's the final verdict? Well, it's a Raumpanzer, Captain. It's a Raumpanzer. It's a Raumpanzer, not a TL1 LPC. That's not what you can say. It's balanced, okay? This is a fairly decently balanced tank. If you had to pin me down and corner me, I would say it's slightly on the back end of needing a slight buff. Let's put it that way. So it kind of needs a little bit of help. Why? Well, mostly because of the meta. If you like the playstyle of a Super Pershing, you'll probably like this tank quite a bit with the kind of gimmicky armor idea in a slow medium at tier 8. The problem is that this is not a preferential tank, whereas the Super Pershing will have some protection from getting blasted to bits by tier 10s. This one does not get that. I did not have a lot of success in tier 10 battles with the relatively low alpha, the relatively low pen of a 255. Whereas the TL1 LPC, you press 2 with the heat, you can be competitive in a lot of cases and find some decent pen capability against tier 9s and tier 10s. This guy, he does struggle quite a bit. You add into that the tumor, add into that the relatively slow speed, and it is a little bit difficult to do well with this tank. But balanced. It's also a collector's tank, so people are going to like it. Hey, it's a tank with a bulldozer on it. Hey, Wargaming, last thing I'll say is you need to make that some kind of ramming mechanism, all right? This is... that would make this actually kind of interesting. All right, guys, that's all I've got for the Raumpanzer. Get out there and spend your money, all right? Let's see you later.